Hi, this is Privateer Station, and today we're bringing you day 385. As always, with Olexiy Arestovych, former advisor to the Office of the President of Ukraine, Lieutenant Colonel, and Mark Feygin, a Russian opposition politician. Also, special thanks go today to one of our members, Bill S. Thanks for supporting our channel. Enjoy. Dear friends, glad to see you all on Feygin Live. It is Wednesday, March 15th. Time is 9 p.m. in Kiev and 10 p.m. in Moscow, and we are starting our next stream, day 385 with Olexiy Arestovych. Glad to see you, Olexiy. Good evening, Mark. All right, as usual, I do ask our viewers to please share links to that stream in social media, in different groups, chats, forums. Send it to your friends or to those whom you need to see that. Do not forget to click the like button. About 11,000 of you already clicked that. And do not forget to write where you're watching us from. That's a good practice that helps us to see our geographic span. And you see that too. And you can subscribe to Olexiy Aristovich's channel and to Mark Feigin's channel. And of course, if you are watching that in English and you have not done that yet, subscribe to Privateer Station. Let's start from the main news, I think, which is not concluded yet. It's still in some dynamics and development. It is 10th Rammstein, which I understand is going on mostly online, but major questions are being discussed, and it is possible this will be the last Rammstein before the counter-offensive of Ukrainian armed forces. So what do you think? What meaning does it have? Is it a regular one, or does it have anything special? All right, let's look at the reaction of our defense minister. It is very reserved. It says he's looking with optimism on the Rammstein, but without much details. Judging by what the NATO representatives were talking or telling to the media, they stated that, and Austin came out and said that their task is to provide an unstopping supply of ammo to Ukrainian forces and to make sure that the battle capabilities of Ukrainian army do not decrease and continue increasing. Ammo is definitely a problem in this war. Russia, at the beginning of this war, was shooting 1.5 to 2 million shells a month. We were shelling them back at 250,000 a month. And NATO altogether were manufacturing about 300,000 a year. There were some ammo stored and stockpiled, of course, but it was always a question to the countries who are giving that. There's always a discussion in parliament and committees. It's a very complex situation. Regardless, we still have enough ammo, and we will have more. But one of the key takeouts of this, at the beginning, West was explaining us that we're shooting wrong. They were telling us we're shooting too much with artillery. We basically showed them that, no, if we will be responding maybe at 100,000 shots to Russian 1.5 million, there'll be nothing to shoot back at with very soon. So half a year in, they understood that artillery still remains the main weapon in this war. Aviation might of neither Ukraine nor Russia is not fully capable to take over the skies. And if so, it means that the key to successful defense and offense in this war is the variety and quantity of artillery shells and systems. So our partners in Rammstein are now finding ways to increase both ammo production and shells production and also the artillery systems production. There are different options. This is very sensitive information, so I cannot talk too much about the details, but there is a very practical political decision that will be realized. Some news like sparkles kind of indicate what may be happening. Today, Ukrainian military production said that they started producing 125, 120 millimeter shells for Ukrainian tanks. And if to follow the news, the specialists from Ukraine departed for one of the NATO countries, and they are producing these shells overseas, not overseas, in the other country, not on the Ukraine territory. And also our allies, it was in the news generally, so it's not a secret, they did increase the production of artillery shells by 400 to 500%. All right. If that's all, let's go to the front. What do you think? There are no major changes. Bakhmut is still the point of contention. Let's bring up the map. Yeah, so in Bakhmut today we shot down SU, Russian jet. According to some data it's Su-25, other sources claim it to be Su-24. In this case, not too important, but it was shot down. That is great news. Hasn't been done for a while on that front. And 93rd Brigade managed to shoot it down today. In their current condition and in what's happening there, this is a good achievement, and I think that Russian pilots who are aiding their ground troops just got a bit demoralized after that incident. If to follow the front line, today was the day of shellings, which brought victims. In Kherson, let's look there. Sorry, I'm looking for my message here. Today was a very dense shelling of Kherson area. 7 times, 20 shells hit different locations, 4 people wounded. They also shelled Marganets factory, and 55-year-old woman and one 60-plus-year-old man were wounded. That's in Dnepropetrovsk area. Kramatorsk was also shelled. They hit 6 civilian multi-story apartment buildings in the center of the city with missiles. Also, a 55-year-old woman died in Volchansk. And yeah, the main feature of today's shelling is that they're shooting at living quarters, at residential buildings. Either they think that Ukrainian military is there, or they're just enjoying themselves killing people. Today also we saw that Ukrainian troops were announced by Russian side to have gone into some offensive on the Eastern Front, supposedly just to investigate what's happening and test the Russian defenses, and according to Russians, they successfully were pushed back. Our command has not confirmed or denied that. And otherwise, Marinka, Avdiivka, and Bakhmut are the hotspots, and there are no big motions that would need some explanations in the last few days. The storming actions on the Russian side continues. They still trying to push the front line without any success and without any general change of the line today and yesterday. All right, so if that's all, let's move on. Let's discuss the situation with the shot down US drone, which allegedly was either shot or forced to go down. So I understand Russian side did it intentionally, and we, I think, understand that there will not be any escalation. Do you see any connection to maybe those missiles shot down in Poland, just a general strategy of the West of avoiding direct conflict with Moscow? Or maybe a question, why even go fight with Russia if the war is already in Ukraine? There is no special need to react to that. Just give more weapons to Ukraine, and instead of downed drone, you guys will get your planes shot down. So I think we can understand that there'll be no direct engagement between NATO and Russian Federation until the day when it can be reasonably proved that Russia actually attacked and downed Western forces. Here, situation is somewhat delicate because I think it was downed on purpose by creating dangerous maneuvering, dumping some jet fuel on it and trying to make it fall. According to some data, it took them about 19 goes to finally down it. So technically, this is an act of aggression. And they're basically probing Americans to see if there'll be any further reaction. Americans have not responded harsh to that. In Russian forums, they're screaming like kids, saying, well, it'll be more difficult for America to do intel, to gather information. They can dream on, but in general, this action is done for Russian citizens. This is to support their relations. If Americans downed Russian UAV like that, then ultra-patriotic gang in Russia would be screaming, how long can we tolerate? And would be asking, are we going to respond or not? In the United States, it's a different system. First of all, people understand that Ukraine is far. And second, they do somewhat trust their military leadership, that they know what they're doing. Pentagon came out and made a statement. American government called Russian ambassador to chastise, so they worked the typical process on that incident. And the company producing these drones already announced that they managed to erase all the software, so Russia will not be able to gather any intel from it. And Russia came out and said that they will make an effort to fish it out of the Black Sea. Right, Olexiy, I have a question. Do you think they can? Because it's in neutral waters, right? It's 120 miles or something offshore. I don't know, Mark. I'm not an expert in the marine depths at this level, but yeah, they did come out and make a statement. Another thing to notice is that the joint group of congressmen, Republicans and Democrats making a statement that if other countries give Ukraine jets and any variation modifications of that, United States will not be against it, will not be questioning that action. So our Western allies here in Europe are already giving us some of their jet fighters. It's a compromise, right? Because we are waiting for Slovakia is giving jets to Ukraine, right? So we are still waiting for Western jets, but it's a lengthy process. It's not just a problem of training pilots, it's also a huge ground infrastructure with a lot of service stations and support, and it cannot be deployed in just a month, 3 or half a year. It takes years. And when they instead give us, for example, some of the SU jets, but refitted with Western tracking, targeting, and other intel brains, basically avionics systems, that is a very good compromise decision in this case, because we can service these jets, we have infrastructure, and we have spare parts. Pilots and technicians know how to work these, but they can use Western ammo, they can use Western targeting systems, which already is happening on the front. So this is good. So a key element here for myself is the long-range missiles supply, to make sure that we can reach further than Russian pilots. This way, if we are unfolding our counteroffensive program, we can keep Russian pilots further out at bay and provide cover for the advancing troops. Some hints about this information were already out in the media, and if that happens, then Russia will never get any success in air, and aviation will play a more dominant part in protecting our ground forces. But the main key will still be on the ground. Aviation will be skillfully aiding them and providing cover, but it depends how much jets do we get. If we increase our numbers by 2025, that basically doubling of what we have right now. And this is a very serious story then. All right, we've been live for about 15 minutes. We have about 200,000 people watching us. 61,000 of you clicked the like button. Please continue joining and sharing links and clicking the like. All right. Last 2 days that passed since Monday, when we met last time, there is some dynamics going on about possible visit of Xi Jinping to Moscow and his also possible meeting and conversation with Zelensky. Did anything change there? Not much, Mark. Yeah, indeed, not much, but there is... One can speak about the position of Ukraine, that it has not been revealed much, but one can say that Ukraine likely will express negative reaction to some of the compromise decisions that China may bring to the table or may try to bring up during that visit. If China brings anything that may limit international sovereignty of Ukraine, for example, not joining NATO, because some people are writing about that, some media. Mark, I think this is absolutely unacceptable category, and this will not even be reviewed. Of course, China can come and bring any offer. We'll review that, but our direction to NATO and towards European Union is unwavering. The main news will come out when our president will talk to Xi Jinping, so not even after Moscow segment of that trip, but after Xi visits Kiev or meets with Zelensky otherwise. I think China will be playing a peacekeeper in this case. Will try to, perhaps there'll be some gestures with exchange of prisoners of war, maybe some humanitarian aid questions, which are symbolical gestures and add prestige to China as the peacemaker. But there will not be grand changes in position of Ukraine, because it is not China or any other country that defines that. It is Ukraine and people of Ukraine who do. So here I would not expect any changes in that position. All right, Olexiy, so you think that we can prognosticate that the visit will happen? He will be discussing some parameters of possible conclusion of war as an offer to Zelensky. We're not talking about internal questions about Moscow dependencies upon China and their inner relations. That topic will be connected, likely discussed, but this is a separate can of worms. So why do you think it's important for China to go visit Zelensky if even on the get-go, they do understand that there is not much outcome they can expect for? Recently, they have been trumpeted that they partook between Iran and Saudis as the peacemaker, but this visit will not be as successful as the previous news. Well, first of all, Mark, diplomatic successes never come quickly. That Saudi and Iran deal, it took at least a couple of years in negotiations. So first you have to start visiting territories. You'll be told a lot of information. You have to start be more present. For example, earlier you had no reason to communicate with Switzerland, but now you have to, because you are not just as China here, but as the negotiator, as one of the peacemaking efforts. So this creates good diplomatic opportunities, especially for China, because they are actively looking, after third time electing Xi Jinping as their leader, they're looking for ways to, how would I put it more precisely, to positively affirm the violation of inner Chinese tradition of electing officials. So they are looking for a way to affirm that with international successes and to create some precedent that can be applied to Taiwan question, because this generally is a precedent, and making peace between one of the staunch enemies, that is definitely a card in that direction, and they can come back to Taiwan later and say, okay, let's work Taiwan now. So this is a long effort here with Ukraine. Nobody's expecting success on the first visit, with the first conversation. So probably least of all Chinese themselves. I can retort here at the angle that they can start this process, but if there'll be a successful counteroffensive of Ukraine on the front, and it liberates more occupied territories, then this mission will crash and burn, I think, because why Ukraine needs Chinese intermediary to achieve goals with Russia, because they can just take land on the ground, on the front. Well, China can think differently. China can think that Ukraine may take land back, but will lose more people, and China is there to somehow alleviate the numbers and maybe switch to a peaceful conclusion. And China may think that we may get tired, we may get exhausted and lose the steam and will not be able to push further, right? So that could be their position. We here know that we won't, that we are eager to take everything back, but it's a difference of opinion. Also, in October, United States primaries start. It's a very short time span for the world politics. It's like a blink. It's a second, right? 5 minutes tops. And China also understands that in October, American rhetoric will become much harder to tolerate, because a year before presidential elections, everything heats up and their statements become more stern and more polarized, and China wants to position themselves in a somewhat favorable light, because America will be looking at the Chinese question as well, and it will be probably addressed very harshly on both sides, by Democrats and by Republicans. So China wants to make sure it has a bit of success somewhere where the United States has failed so far, in their perception. All right, 222,000 are watching us. 75,000 of you clicked the like button. We'll see how that unfolds. It's early to say, indeed, but I understand it is connected one way or another. Let's go back to Zelensky. Prigozhin said they captured a small settlement. I think it's like 2 people worth, but Prigozhin came out and made a statement. They captured another little village. So I listened to his audio, and he's basically saying that despite the lack of ammo and people, we took Zelensky, and we are finishing the cleanup, and stormtroopers of Wagner continue their efforts to surround Bakhmut. Coming back time and time again to Prigozhin, I'm trying to understand his logic in the context of unfolding events. Does he think that by taking settlements with whatever else he has left, just wasting the last of them to capture something on the front, he is trying to avoid the worst scenario for himself? Because if you don't have enough shells, if you don't have enough ammo, and you continue throwing these people, the last of what you have, into these meat grinders, what do you think is he achieving? What is he targeting with this action? How do you see that? Mark, I think he is under the influence of social inertia. He doesn't have much to do. He basically promised to be taking cities, so he is continuing to do that. And even if at some point we decide to withdraw from Bakhmut and they come in, he'll be dumped at the last moment, same way as he was in Soledar, when 2/3 of the dirty job was done by Wagner, and then at the very end, Russian command threw in paratroopers and special forces to celebrate and basically plant the flag. And yeah, that's what he said in his audio, that they sent us further to fight the next front, and they are dividing those minds between themselves already in Solidar. Exactly, that's what likely will happen there. They'll push him aside. Minister of Defense will likely come out with a statement saying that don't even think about pinning any of this success on your stupid Wagner. It was all Russian military that took it. And Shoigu, defense minister, will likely come out and also say that kudos to our military efforts. And Wagner and Prigozhin were pointed to the corner and were given time and space allocation. Very unsuccessful to them, but yeah, they're very limited in what they can and what they're given. All right, next news. Putin announced he might be able to go to Crimea. So referendum there is what, on the 16th, right? The anniversary. Yeah, he was planning to be there. So they are digging trenches on the beaches, on the perimeter of Crimea. The circumstances are dire. Very often things go kaboom. Oh, even it's not resort-like. Oh, screw resort. It's just save your ass situation. So it's not really comfortable to visit. And so far we've heard the rhetoric that he's avoiding visiting the front line or coming too close to it. How do you see that? Because, first of all, he is very careful, right? And his guards, his security detail are probably trying to convince him to not go, because we'll be visiting the territory that Ukraine is trying to take back, and they have drones and maybe have some longer-ranging missiles. So, do you think it's dangerous for them to come? Mark, the triangle of a victim looks like that. Who, where, and when. If you don't have an exact answer to one of these questions, it's nearly impossible to organize that hit. So do you think Ukraine would attack him if you guys had him in your range? I don't have a problem with that. The problem would be to know if it is him or his double. Usually these visits, when they happen, they go quiet. They maintain a strict secrecy, and only a day or two later information comes out with videos and pictures. So with the secrecy mode and all that involved, it might be a little difficult for us to pinpoint where he is. And you know, we're simple people. If we see him, we might shoot him. So they definitely will be taking secrecy measures. And we understand how he'll be addressing crowd. He'll put 50 of his security detail in front of him, probably same faces we've seen in many pictures. Right, yeah, we recognize them now. So they'll probably line them up somewhere with the bridge in the background. Of course, they'll need some geographic tie-in, but this is not going to be a trivial task. If that was an easy thing to kill a president, Russia would have lost the president, and yeah. But let's notice another thing, that Russian leaders and Putin's government specifically hasn't visited Crimea for a while. Perhaps their security is gauging our abilities much more realistically and much more higher than what we know and what Russian general public knows. So I wouldn't be surprised that if they try to add some 3D to his visit, because it may be a bit more dangerous for him to visit, indeed. And I don't think Crimea is on top of his mind. I think he is facing other scary news right now. He's got other headaches. Yeah, you know, they have the Russian Chamber of Industrialists and Entrepreneurs is meeting tomorrow, and 15 billionaires came out and said, no, we're not partaking in this one. We don't want to be sanctioned. When they were delicately asked about that, they basically answering that whenever we are taking picture with Putin, we immediately fall under more sanctions. So no, we don't have that as a plan. So 15 billionaires withdrew from that organization. They're not going to visit any of that. And I guess they're waiting some disappointment on Putin's behalf and some possible scolding, and gauging that to be a lesser evil than being together with Putin in one frame, in one picture. So that's a peculiar piece of news. And Kazakhstan did another fun thing. They arrested all Russian property on Baikonur, on the spaceport. So that's like a big dagger in the back. And they're not afraid, apparently. They're not afraid of Putin's regime and consequences. All the property of the operators of Russian spaceport is arrested because of the debt of $26 billion. The daughter of Roscosmos is prohibited to conduct any financial operations and are prohibited to leave and remove any property from the territory of the spaceport. And that probably puts an end to Soyuz 5, which was developed on the Ukrainian carrier Zenith, and they've wasted over $800 million developing that, but very likely it will never go up. Now, Pashinyan also made a statement from Armenia that Common Defense Treaty is leaving Armenia. Not Armenia is running from it, but that organization is leaving them. So things are falling apart around Russia. And I don't think Crimea is on top of his mind. All right, so indeed, these things are happening with Russian Chamber of Industrialists. That was on shaky grounds for a while because many of those industrialists are not living in the territory of Russia anymore and they don't want to come back. Oh, I understand them because that's definitely a risk for any business they have. And now Serbia comes out, and Serbia also says that we'll probably join anti-Russian sanctions. And I would remind that Russia had only 3 countries in the European Union: Hungary, Austria, and Serbia. Austria started taking serious measures to clean up 2 pro-Kremlin friendly persons from their political elites. Then Serbia came out and said, no, we are in disagreement with what Russia does. And another thing what also made me smile was that Congress of Bryansk region, they actually put to voting an option to include expenses for air defense systems into their communal services for citizens. Later, their representatives came out and said that this was hacked. It was not their intention. But I would not be surprised if this is their way to crawl back that piece of news, and that actually could be true, that they are considering it, because for the last 20 years, under Putin, Russian lawmakers make some very absurd decisions. I have another topic to you, by the way, related to the Chamber of Industrialists and their entrepreneurs in Russia. We'll bring up a picture of Roman Abramovich. Here it is. It supposedly was made in Poland. He is there with Polish special services on some negotiations between Ukraine and Russia, probably exchange of prisoners of war and some other matters. He has relation to these negotiations, of course. He is a figure partaking in that, and I would want to bring him up and see if you can say anything about him and some of the events happening in Russian opposition, where they write petitions to remove sanctions from Alpha Bank and some others. But Abramovich keeps successfully dodging sanctions. He is under, I think, UK sanctions, but not under American. And he is trying to not get on that list. So supposedly he is bringing some value to the table. And I understand that, of course, in exchange of prisoners, he is bringing that. But I also suspect that all these deals about the ammonia pipes and grain and everything, I doubt they passed under his radar. I think he was involved with that too. And why are you bringing Abramovich, Mark? I think because he's a definitely close person to Putin. He was called Putin's wallet. You can define him in different ways, but he's definitely one of the Putin's inner circle. So the question is that if he participates in these events, in negotiations, he's only doing it for profit, to make sure he doesn't get into any sanctioned lists by United States and maybe hopefully leave or get dropped from the UK sanctions list. Ukraine is accepting that. Alexander Rodnyansky, who is a public advisor to President Zelensky, he is a close friend of Abramovich. How do you gauge his role? Do you think it's still useful? Do you think it's still playing a good role here? And how much of an illusion does it create for Russian oligarchs that they still have a chance to jump off from the sanctions list? Do you think they all will try to join the bandwagon and do the same thing as Abramovich does? I think the probability of that is pretty low. See, Mark, I don't know exact details of what he's doing there. I can only rely on the words of Arahami and Podolyak, and they've been talking about that for a while now, and I have not heard anything new. We can either trust them or not trust them in their estimates of Abramovich engagement. And quoting Arahami, he said that Abramovich turned out to be very useful in these negotiations. So that's about it. We don't have other input. I have some guesses that I could probably elaborate on, but I don't think it's the right time to bring them up to the light yet. All right, Alexei, we don't have to dig deeper. I'm just curious if you have any information. I do have some, but I cannot reveal it yet. All right, no questions. Let's wait till the war is over and then we can discuss it. We've been live for 35 minutes. 260 plus thousand watching us, 91,000 click the like button. Guys, if there'll be fewer than 100,000 likes for our live streams, we might stop it. See, I'm already leaving the frame. Mark, please call me when we hit the 100,000 likes. I'll bring back in the picture. I'll come back in the picture. Guys, come on. Yeah, distract from the stream for a sec. Click that like button. By the way, our previous stream was in top 10 recommended by YouTube. I think we're in place 6 or 7 there. So the more likes, the more people are watching, the better it is a guarantee to get the most recommended stream list. Oh yeah, they're lazy, Mark. They're not listening to us. It's amazing. You can't even imagine, dear viewers, how difficult it is to continue drawing the straight line through all these streams. Oh, don't even say, Olexiy. It's also with the background of non-stop psyops by Russian propagandists. That's pretty hard effort. Oh, by the way, we just hit 100,000. Okay, so I'm back in the frame. Let's continue talking. All right, a little bit of better news, in quotes, but still at the end of the show. Some media published that Medvedev ordered Prigozhin to assassinate the Minister of Defense of Italy. I think Figaro. No, Figaro is French, right? Yeah, Figaro is French. Let me find who wrote that. So the news came that Medvedev supposedly... Oh, Folio. It was Italian and Folio, right. So let me read it. Medvedev ordered an assassination of Minister of Defense Rosetta from Italy with private mercenary corps Wagner. And they pointed at his statement that a new wave of migrants from Africa would be or could be induced by Russian Wagner activities on that continent. So I don't know if that's trustworthy piece of news, but you know, our foes here are mad, so I could possibly entertain this that this happened. The thesis that they are indeed pumping illegal migration from Africa to Europe, that I definitely believe. That is definitely part of their actions. That's not even without a doubt, Mark. And I understand we now got a very good ally in Italy. And since he is also a Minister of Defense, then I think when next time another question will be brought, should Italy give a little more to Ukraine? Italy might be a little more eager to give us even more above and beyond what they're doing. Because now it might have just become a bit more personal for him. Because there's got to be some response to that publication. I do not quite believe that indeed that thing happened, but just to analyze if a politician anywhere is going to be assassinated, I think the West might consider assassinating somebody else. Mark, I don't think there'll be any assassinations. I think it'll be in the same corridor. Russia will be sending expletives out in the media field, and the West will be giving us more ammo and weapons. And news like that, they actually do help to convince more allies to partake on a grander scale. because an argument of possible assassination of some of the officials of the country is definitely a strong argument. And by the way, another piece of news was that International Criminal Court formally started the proceedings against Russian Federation. And at the end, I suspect there'll be a sentencing and probably an order for arrest of Putin and his allies. And I think Russian elite will start to have really sad days very soon. And they're facing a good chance to learn more about their country, to go, for example, have some rest in the far east of Russia or Baikal, or maybe on a tour of that, what they call the Golden Ring historic tour. And now that Raiffeisen Bank, the last of the Western banks, is leaving Russia, they can be using that Mir card that's affiliated with China. So it's generally a good story, in quotes, to increase aid to Ukraine, but very bad story for Russia if they indeed seriously were discussing these ideas anywhere. I think then, if indeed that happened, then Ukraine just acquired another degree of strength in support from Italy. And Italy is a good ally, right? Oh yeah, Italy is very supportive of Ukraine. We're thankful to Italy already and the Italian government. All right, dear friends, I thank you all for being part of this conversation. We've been live for about 40 minutes. 267,000 are with us. Over 110,000 of you clicked the like button. This is a good result. And of course, please continue to click that like button. Please subscribe if you have not done that yet to Mark Feygin channel, to Olexiy Arestovych, and of course to the Privateer Station if you haven't done that yet. And next meeting is on Saturday, right? Yes, Saturday. So stream will come out Monday about 9 in the morning, Sunday, 9 in the morning Eastern. And yeah, we'll likely have more data from Rammstein by Saturday. By the way, another news just popped. Denmark came out with another package of support with more air defense systems and more ammo. So things are coming out already. All right, we'll discuss that on Saturday. Thank you, and thank you, dear viewers. See you soon. Goodbye.